Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our chat room, via our Facebook page, and of course, on Twitter. Keep it funky. That's right. Keep it funky. That's what I'm talking about. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. We are episode 162 tonight on this April 11th. Man, April's already almost halfway through. And you got Stu here, and you see to my side, you got the Nunn. It's a night of green. We're all in green tonight. How's that? Welcome, Toby. How you doing, buddy? Nope, no mic. Nope, you're quiet. Mute button. There we go. Oh.
In the honor of 411,
Yeah.
we are live. We are here, and I'm unmuted. Can't silence me.
That's right. Not even that button.
Can't silence me. No, it's good, man. It's a beautiful day here in Tejas. I rode the old motorcyclette to the Southern Studio / office / place of work from 06 to whenever we get out of here tonight. It was nice. Thriving weather for flowers, the wildflowers, bluebonnet, Indian paintbrushes.
Look at you. No snow or ice to.
No snow or ice, and it's MotoGP weekend here in Austin, Texas. So go Ducati.
It's always some kind of weekend in Texas in the summertime, man. There's always something going on.
Hey,
right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Know that. Next week, spring break, gonna hang out with the coolest member of the Nunn clan ever.
Don't let the other ones hear that. But yeah, it is spring break. It is kicking here in the Northern Studios too. Next week we will be jumping into that midweek and starting the spring break time. Not really spring though. Funny story, Toby. I get lawn service. In the summertime they come treat so many times.
Dude, never admit that out loud, man. You're a self-respecting man. You can mow your own grass.
No, not mow. They treat it. Like put the fertilizer.
Okay.
I guess so I can keep my Hank Hill.
Say, don't you have a teenager too?
Yeah, no. I like to mow myself. No, I mean to get that Hank Hill look. Get the nice deep green grass, and they do all the fertilizer and all that stuff. I ain't got time to mess with all that. So today they came for the first initial one. The dude was doing it in the snow. It was snowing this morning, and he's putting the fertilizer down. I'm like, that's just wrong every which way.
No, the active ingredient that makes grass green is nitrogen, the primary component of snow, nitrogen. That's why it's such a natural fertilizer. So you will get a very lush green, my dude.
Really? I thought it was blood. Blood makes the green grass
go. Yeah, well,
I was always told that by my NCOs in my first sergeant, my drill sergeant.
No, you're right. How dare I bring science into it? Yes, blood makes the green grass grow.
That's right. That's the way that Cadian's always said, and I took it to heart. Anyways.
Well, I mean, it's the truth. It's science.
Yes, it is. Better than science. It's Army logic.
Knowledge.
That's right, knowledge. Anyways. Yeah, so we are Northern Studio, Southern Studio tonight. Next week, we're going to be on the move doing some crazy stuff because of spring breaks and stuff. I will be coming to you from a more Southern studio next week. We'll keep that as a surprise until then and all that good stuff. But we have a packed show tonight. There are a lot of topics to hit on, and one we're definitely going to hit on close to heart. But before we get into that and anything else, is there anything you want to kind of cover or announce or welcome or...
Yeah, a couple things. So, there have been some things that, like you and I are both hockey fans. And, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NHL playoffs started in earnest last night.
Yep.
Go Stars, 1-up already on the Predators. What's up? I know you don't understand what we're talking about, because it's been a minute since Buffalo made an appearance. But
dude, I can never like the Stars, man. Come on now.
No, you can, and you should, and you will. I will convert you. But there's a bit of controversy up in my homeland and out on the prairie province of Manitoba, the thriving metropolis of Winnipeg, home of the Jets. they have a white, blue with red highlighted jersey, which is based off of the Canadian Armed Forces insignia that they utilize because the jets, there's a big air base near there, and there may be some manufacturing that goes on near there. But the Winnipeg Jets are a long-standing Canadian tradition. They're a treasure, and when they play a home game, the jersey of choice when playing a home game is the lighter jersey. In their case, it's white with blue and red highlights. And there are some people that are complaining because when they're playing home games, especially in the playoffs, they encourage everyone to wear white. In a lot of cases, they hand out white shirts, to help promote what they call the white out. And the cool thing about that is like, one, they live in the prairies. Snow happens in that cold northern region. When the wind blows, it creates a whiteout. So it's a little like play on words, and people, a select group of people are complaining that, it's racially insensitive to have a white.
I was afraid you were going there. I thought maybe they were going to say it looked like too much of like America, red, white, and blue. I thought that's where you were going at first.
No, they're like, and they've taken to the social media, to complain about the fact that there's a white out and people dress up in white clothing. And what makes me laugh about it is because they're like talking about the racial insensitivity of it. And I'm laughing not because I think racism is a joke. I'm laughing because like these knuckleheads forget that the Ku Klux Klan was not in Canada. Like this is like
can I ask you a serious question to educate myself?
Send it.
How many minorities are in Winnipeg and that area of Canada?
Oh, probably hundreds.
Oh, but percentage-wise, per capita, in single digit.
Canada's an amazing melting pot.
Right? Yeah, I agree. But in that area, is it heavily diverse?
Oh no. I mean, well,
not counting natives.
I guess if you're looking at, pigmentation or tone, there's. I'm probably not educated enough to speak on it. But I would say that, majority of people are like probably Eastern European.
Okay. I was just curious.
I mean, I know that there's a huge Ukrainian presence. There's a huge
it wasn't like the team.
Presence.
This is an Atlanta Thrashers, right? It's not downtown Atlanta or Memphis or
no.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like there's a strong like East Indian, Pakistani, presence. There's an Asian presence.
Right.
Like I think, different races and creeds are definitely represented there. Yeah, of course, it's probably predominantly Anglo-Saxon or Francophone.
No, let me ask you: is it local people that are making these complaints, or is it people from outside the area?
It is actually a local person that's doing it.
One person?
And, organization. Sorry, the lead person, the leader of the basically Canada's version of Black Lives Matter.
Gotcha. Rob, the unpaid producer, is generating stats for us in the Facebook chat on demographics. So he is producing as he always does, and worth his weight and worth every penny we pay him.
Yeah, I love that dude. Look at him just handing it out like a player, dude. That's awesome. No, but it's just sometimes political correctness like just goes too far.
Yeah.
There's no racial indicator. There's no signaling in saying whiteout, unless we're talking about what snow does when it blows and you can't see.
Kind of like what's happening right now in Denver to Minnesota as they're having that storm cyclone thing going on.
And that's like that's how silly some of the stuff is like, well, we, and they're talking about like cultural appropriation. They're talking about all this stuff. It's like, look who's appropriating. Like you guys, the irony of it is too much. So I just wanted to laugh about that. I also wanted to bring to light something that I thought was absolutely newsworthy, but hasn't gotten a lot of news coverage, and that's that Israel made a run at a lunar landing last week.
Today, right? Wasn't it today?
This week, yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Like today is when it went to go land.
yeah, it was unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's audacious, man. That's bold. I love it. I love anybody that like goes after a big dream. It was only a week or two ago, that we had, the Vice President of the United States here in Texas at NASA talking about how America's trying to, make a run back at the moon, and we're not that far away from it, and that's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And here we have like another nation, Israel of all countries, making a run at the moon. Like I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
I think like I think it's cool because they're not a big country. So the effort financially, the effort that's going into it is pretty cool. Unfortunately, they had some kind of engine failure going in that didn't was unable to slow the descent going in, but that was hardly even mentioned in the news.
Yeah.
And you would
they actually did a picture right before it pretty much crashed. They were kind of proud of that. I mean, they got
well
it
they
up there.
well I mean they should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wish it was successful. It wasn't. I'm glad America's like back in that, but like that's what we should be talking about. Israel just sent a rocket to the moon. But yet, what we're hearing about in anything, especially where I'm at in Texas, the only thing you're hearing about in terms of Israel is that, like the most Hispanic Irishman ever is calling Netanyahu a racist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, and I listened to his comments.
There's some cultural there's some cultural appropriation going on right there, if I must say so myself.
Straight up.
To be fair.
To be fair. But no, like they made a run at the moon. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like especially when you look at technology, when you look at the space race, when you look at that thing, you have one of the smallest countries in the world make a run at it.
Right.
Like that's pretty.
They have a lot of other stuff going on too. I mean, they are pretty active.
They defending themselves against the entire Arab world that surrounds them.
Rocket attacks and this and that.
Like on the daily, they got a ton of things going on, and they make a run at it. I'm super impressed by that.
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed that I didn't know about it sooner. And when I say not just in a selfish way, but I mean like it just wasn't newsworthy. But yet, a insignificant politician from the Republic of Texas got more coverage calling the leader of that country racist than them going to the moon. Like
right.
that's how like.
And the reason, not to miss over anything, the reason he called him racist and got all involved in it because the guy just won his 5th re-election. Right.
Yeah.
And set records.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah, yeah. But tonight the theme, the theme tonight is kind of going to end up being where stories get overlooked and you don't hear about things in the news. We'll tease it that way, but that's going to be a main topic for tonight. So it kind of is good that leads into that. Before we get to going too much further, Toby, I do want to recognize our sponsor, Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Logo's above my head in E9. You can't go wrong with them. You got to make some great stuff. They're now partnered up with E9 wear. E9, right? Is how I say it? E9 apparel? E9 apparel, that's it. And I also want to give a big shout out to my old school, I love it, man. My old school throwback VO hat. I put that on for you, man. That's
Veteran Outdoors, making dreams come true. One weekend at a time.
One weekend at a time. That's right. One weekend away from family at a time. But anyways, I want to give them a big shout out. VO, of course, Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Great sponsor and partner in this show, Colton and the guys we love over there. So, anyways, I just want to get that in before we got too far down the road.
Enlisted Nine Fight Company have always been good to us. They're now on the Nine Line
Or
apparel
Nine
page.
Line. Thank you. I misspoke.
They're
That.
now
Thank you.
on the Nine Line apparel page, and you can go there and get. They have a new. They got a couple new shirts out. I was wearing one earlier today, but it might have got some salsa on it. It's
That
not.
happens.
That's not.
That's a Texas thing.
It's actually not true. It wasn't salsa. It would have been cooler if it was salsa. It was actually tuna sandwich from Thundercloud. But
Don't tell anybody that.
yeah, no, like that's how awesome
You could have said it
my
was
day's been.
guacamole because the avocados are still coming. You could have said it was
Yes,
guacamole.
yeah. I should have said that. But they got the new Kavanaugh established, 2018 Washington D.C. because he still likes beer. That's a good shirt. They got the new Theodore shirt, softly carry a big stick. They got America Likes to Party. They got a couple really great things. They got a Texas specific Come and Take It with the Gonzalez cannon over a wonderful map that's represented by the flag of Texas, the Lone Star Republic. So get a lot of great products on ninelineapparel.com, and then go to Enlisted Nine. Big shout out. Yeah. Much love.
Absolutely. Hey, so we got a lot of topics to get into. I want to hit on one. You talked a little bit about one. I want to hit on his bar hearing that happened over the last 2 days. And I was going to write a blog post about this, but I just was busy writing on Boo Hammer and didn't get a chance. So I'm just going to talk about it tonight. It won't take up much time. So the blog post I was going to title is "Are Congress Idiots?" which I thought would get a lot of attention. But I don't really mean Congress as a whole. But I mean people in this committee that the two committees that Attorney General Barr had to sit in front of the last 2 days. So obviously that kind of backfired on him because he came out, and what became the news fodder was him saying that they're investigating spying on the Trump campaign by our government during the 2016 election, and that became, that was kind of like everyone thought, hey, he's going to be in the hot seat, and all the news was about that, and then boy, those tables turned quick, and then of course the Dems came out, and they're all freaking out because he said the word spying and stuff. But above and beyond all that, well, the reason I asked if they're idiots is because everyone is, they subpoenaed him. And Nader subpoenaed him. They wanted the full report released by April 2nd or something. He's like, it ain't gonna happen. We've got to go through it. There's grand jury testimony. There's information that is not allowed to be released. There's methods. There's intelligence collection methods, so on and so forth. So they're chomping at the bit. Now all of a sudden, after they just approved him, by the way, twice. He was approved before as the Attorney General years ago under Bush 41, and then just approved weeks ago. And as the new Attorney General, and everyone is behind him saying he's a down the middle guy, great guy. Now all of a sudden he's the worst thing since sliced bread, like anyone else that is somehow associated with the president and is looked on favorable or aligned with the president. So they're all biting at the bit, and they're saying we can't trust anything he says. Pelosi only said the other day she doesn't trust him; she only believes Mueller. All that kind of stuff. Mueller's already given him the report, and in fact, so he came out in his testimony and said him and Mueller have been working on redacting it. They're working together shoulder to shoulder. Mueller's not done. He's working with the Attorney General to redact the parts that should not be released. They're not talking about that. So I want to highlight that first. He is collaborating with the guy that did the investigation that the Dems are all saying they only trust one guy and not the other. But more importantly, you want him to get the report out. Don't take up his time for 2 days. I'm just like, I was astounded. Like, you're sitting there yelling at this guy and saying, why isn't the report out? Why didn't you get it to us by the 2nd of April? Because we just came up with this arbitrary date. And why are you taking so long? And which you said, probably within the next week it'll be out. But yet they make him sit in front of Congress, so he's got to prep for that. I would imagine, I've never been in front of a committee hearing. I don't know if you have, Toby, but I would imagine I would spend a good day or two getting ready for that, preparing myself. Traveling there, sitting there for half the day, one day in front of the House, and then the next day in front of the Senate committee. He can't be going through the report that you want so bad if he's sitting in front of you answering your stupid questions and listening to you pontificate and just blabber about everything, how you don't trust him and you think he's aligned with the president and not looking out for the country's best interest. So I just want to it's my rant. It was like a quick rant. I was going to write a post about it. Obviously, speaking about it here is much faster than typing it. But I just want your thoughts on it. We didn't talk about this beforehand. You didn't know what I was going to hit on that topic. But just any perspective or reflection on that?
No, I mean, I echo the sentiment. And one of the things, like, I think we're seeing it more and more, and I'd like to identify the distinguished gentleman from the Republic of Texas, Dan Crenshaw. I'd like to identify him specifically because one of the things that he's spending time talking about is the inefficiency and the stupidity of certain issues, like the discussion of certain bills, the presentation of certain bills. He spoke yesterday about how there was another vote, in the whole process of calling for a vote on the floor, forcing members, to come, place their vote on a bill that would absolutely go nowhere because it was meaningless. And he talked about specifically the bill being an internet net neutrality bill, but it wasn't a net neutrality bill. It wasn't for the freedom of the internet. It was to bring back a law from 1934 dealing with the flow of information. Obviously, the internet, despite what Al Gore would allude you to, was not yet invented in 1934.
Nope.
So, a lot of these hearings, a lot of these things, and we're starting to see it now, especially with social media. C-SPAN was great. C-SPAN is great because it's unbiased, just bare knuckles coverage. Like they're not asking questions, they're not doing anything. It's just a platform for people to speak, and then it's also just a platform that just bears witness to the democratic process as well as the political process. So the fact that we now are getting all this feedback and we're seeing these things, like these hearings, that's a perfect example. If you want to actually get to the root of an issue and you want to ask somebody a question about it, give them the opportunity to go do what you're asking them to do. This I feel the same way about when I was in the Army. You'd be getting your ass chewed, and the leaders that's chewing your ass is asking you an answer that you can't answer until you go find it.
Right.
I could continue to sit here and get my ass chewed. If it makes you feel better, great. But that's not solving the problem.
But if you want me to go find out what caused some issue, I need to go to the motor pool or go find
wherever it is.
Wherever it is.
Yeah. Let me go find the answer to what your query is, and then I can satisfy your need for it. Everything outside of that is just you making yourself feel better. Yeah. And I don't want to say I have a low tolerance for that, but I think as a human being, you should have a low tolerance for that. I think you should be more concerned with results than, just, for lack of a better term, pandering.
Right.
That whole, that young woman, Candace Owens, right now is getting a lot of mileage out of, her testimony in front of Congress yesterday or the day before, because, someone, that Ted Lieu guy took an opportunity. Yeah, he's a congressman, but right. He's, whatever. He took the opportunity of his platform to try and signal virtue versus actually get down to asking a question. And this whole monitor time, the game of, well, I only have 5 minutes, so I must reclaim my time so you don't waste it actually answering the question. This whole process, has issues. It's a big game. It's a chessboard.
If they took the cameras out of there, I bet you it wouldn't be near as long or near as eventful. Right?
Right. No, it absolutely is. I mean, you saw it with
they can make it public. There's the private. There's the private hearings. They can make them public, and people can come sit in there and watch that have nothing better else to do, or are interested in the topic, but no cameras. Most people wouldn't care, and they would not go on for drone on and on and on.
Yeah, I mean, you had a cabinet member in front of a committee the other day, and Maxine Waters was the chair, and Maxine Waters spent 20 minutes asking why that cabinet member, or if that cabinet member would be willing to come back. And the whole thing was, he's like, most cabinet members that come in front of this committee, they only talk for 2.5 to 3 hours. I've been here for 3 hours plus. I said I'm willing to come back, but I have a foreign dignitary waiting for
Yeah.
me at 5:30. It's going to be embarrassing for our country if I'm not there. And just
Oh,
these,
I watched that. That was just it was ridiculous.
and it ended up being embarrassing on both sides. Because then he's like got to make his point to her, and so like we really need to like get down to business and start talking about business. We need to like be able to get down to what the information is. And that was like this whole weed through this report. Go weed through it.
Yeah.
Like we don't need 4,800 pages to explain what, like you should go see a doctor. Like you should be able to weed through that information quickly, concisely. That's one of the things you and I, were raised culturally with in terms of the military. You and I were raised, with the ability to send and receive candor. When speaking and communicating processes with our subordinates or receiving mentorship and counseling from our seniors, it was in bullet format.
Yeah. Bottom line up front, bluff.
Yeah, here it is.
To the point.
Boom, go. And like I was speaking with a business partner yesterday, and I'm like apologizing for my candor, but I like told him, I go, I want to get to target. Like,
well, if you're like me, you probably get in trouble with it at home, as I continue to do after all these years, because I don't want to hear all what led up to how did he get hurt. I just want to hear how he got hurt and what happened. We'll fill in the rest later, but I don't care about it. Like, why are we having to rush to the hospital? I don't need the 20-minute dissertation up until that point. Right?
Yeah.
Or how did the glass break? Just tell me how the glass break, not what the dog did and blah blah. Yeah. And so I can't shake that. You're right. It is embedded into our DNA. And to me, I find that an effective way to communicate, but it doesn't always come over warm and fuzzy. So we'll see.
All right. Well, hey, I want to jump to something else real quick because we talked about it on our Facebook page earlier this week. We talked about Hoda Mathani, who is the Alabama young woman that was previously from Alabama up north and then Alabama, and she abandoned her family in Alabama, sought refuge with ISIS, knowingly and willingly moved to ISIS, went to Turkey, joined the ISIS in Syria, wed not one but two ISIS fighters, not once but twice, bore children to these war fighters these warriors against the United States specifically, the ISIS for the caliphate. She 100% joined their cause. There's been arguments saying, well, like she didn't understand what she was getting into. And I'll agree with that. I don't think anyone that, is young and impressionable, goes off on this romantic idea that they're going to go join like this magical utopia.
What is that saying we say? ISIS, or not ISIS. Ignorance is not an excuse, right?
Ignorance is not an excuse.
That's right.
But she wasn't there for a couple of months, right? She was there for years. She was married not once, but twice. She bore children. And then only when ISIS fell, did she, producer Rob corrected me. She was married 3 times. My bad. Yeah. So like trifecta.
That's why we have a producer.
She said, I do 1, 2, 3 times. And now only after they lost and they fell does she want to return. Now she's currently living in a camp, which is controlled in Kurdish territory, which is awesome. And, she is among many other people that are trying to get back to their home country, but their home countries do not want them. The United States, specifically the President of the United States, has spoken out and said that she would not be welcome back, but based on her citizenship, which, now she's launched a lawsuit against the United States, trying to sue her way back into the country. That's a way. I don't think it's an effective way. But the bottom line is, people are like, well, you should have a heart, you should have compassion, for the hundreds of thousands of people displaced, raped, damaged, murdered, the hundreds of thousands of homes reduced to rubble, not by our ordinance, but by ISIS's ordinance in their own lands. I think they get a vote. Like
that's where the compassion sits.
Like
it
if you,
them.
Yeah,
right.
That's where she's currently, she's like, well, these conditions are horrible. Well, you're lucky you're not in prison. You're living in a camp where someone's feeding you and someone's housing you. Yeah, granted, it's probably not the best situation, but like,
you're also not strapped to the front of some ISIS mobile like you're in a Mad Max movie.
Right.
As they try to blow through a gate or something.
So we put it up on our Facebook page, to kind of get, a little bit of insight. Unfortunately, there was some commentary going back and forth within that thread that neither Stu or I condone, not on the value of the opinion that was shared, but on the way that it was done. Like, you should be able to communicate your point without having to use the word stupid retard. While effective,
if not in uniform. If you're not in uniform,
yeah, while effective with privates,
or lieutenants.
Yeah, we're adults, and part of adulting is like being able to use your words. And if you can't communicate your point without like resorting to name calling,
yes.
you might want to hang out at the.
Rob's got some ideas. Rob, you just keep those coming, buddy.
Yeah.
Both Robs, Rob McCready and Rob Sesente.
You bring her back here, treat her as a traitor, go through that process. That's definitely a viable solution. Someone that says that, like death to America and pledges her support into the battle against America, and you don't have to come back here. Just because you're like, well, I was like young and stupid and he was so cute and his beard was so like fuzzy, like that isn't good enough.
No,
like
ignorance is not an excuse. No.
Yeah, that's
either is an an overarching libido or whatever.
You want to find a beer, you can go to Southern Louisiana and get one of the Duck Commander boys.
Yeah,
like there's some world-class beards here in America. You don't have to go to Syria to find a good beard.
That's right.
But anyway, I digress.
So
I just did address it because
I want to hit on one other topic that's closely related, and that is a young Muslim woman who's an elected member of Congress. So the linkage, right? The transition is a young Muslim woman. Bless her heart, as we'd say in the South. But yeah. So Omar made this comment. She was speaking in this very kind, open society association called CARE, the Center for Arab Islamic Resource, something, whatever. I don't know. It's a place that Jimbo loves. He does a lot of work with them. But
it's one of the spots.
Yeah, I think they have him on a bullseye somewhere. They have like the top 10 list. But she was speaking at CARE, and she was talking about how CARE was started after 9/11 because some people did some things. Now, she has gotten a lot of quick pushback or feedback on the socials and everywhere else, because she referred to the 9/11 hijackers who killed almost 3,000 people across Pennsylvania, D.C., and New York City as some people who did some things. Yeah, I mean, I get it. The Christian Crusaders were some people that did some things. The Nazis were some people that did some things. Just doesn't fit. But so it's sad, right? But I can't say it's surprising. She has no shortage of controversial things she said since she has been elected into office from an area that she could have been dead and gotten elected into office. But not surprisingly, her freshman colleagues, AOC and Talib, or whatever her name is, the other one, 3 freshmen, young females, have come right out and stood up for her, and to no one's surprise, and have said, you're being racist for saying this or that, and you took her stuff out of context, and all Muslim women have their stuff out of context. So they aren't even a year into being in Congress. They are playing race cards. They are playing the victim cards. They are doing all that, when really it's a self-inflicted wound, right? She opened her mouth. She said it. She could have easily come back and said, I was being disingenuous. I didn't realize how my words would hurt. Nope, doubles down. So we have an elected member of Congress who refers to the 19 hijackers, and who knows how many other countless people that supported the operations, who killed and brought down a lot of infrastructure and killed almost 3,000 people. And you think that, and you think the number of lives they have touched, tens of thousands of people that were friends and colleagues and coworkers and family, as some people who did some things. Absolutely despicable.
Well, I'm going to use a different word, and I'm going to get a ton of hate for it, but whatever. Not only is it despicable, it's also very predictable. Like this is the platform that's being utilized, and to devalue someone else's voice, you have to make your voice more valuable. And like if I said, and this is hypothetical because I am not saying this, if a person, let me rephrase that, if a person referencing the young man in Charlottesville that ran over that protester, if someone referred to him as just a guy that did a thing,
or the Charleston church shooter as a young man who did some things.
Yeah, well, I was just saying one-on-one,
right?
One person to another person. If you were to talk about a rapist and said, "Oh, well, that's just a guy that did a thing," I remember, not too long ago, all the hype and hysteria about the Stanford athletic swimmer, I believe, that they claimed, not claimed, sorry, he was convicted. And let me correct myself. If I was like, well, that was just a guy that did a thing. There was a guy that, like, that's unacceptable on any level.
Right.
But to devalue the point of, the majority of Americans, and when I say the majority of Americans, I absolutely believe the vast majority of her constituents, regardless of religion, would not trivialize an attack on innocent civilians that took over 3,000 lives.
That took Christian, Muslim, atheist, Mormon, Catholic.
It was human lives.
It didn't care.
There was human lives.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would trivialize that. And then, for the retort or rebuttal, or the clapback, as the kids like to say, being, oh, well, this guy only thinks that because, he's a Navy SEAL, and, like AOC's response to Crenshaw, or calling out Crenshaw and saying that, he should be going around here killing white supremacists, because they've committed just as much terrorism in the United States. Okay, one, that's factually inaccurate, not in a little way.
Like most of the stuff she says, like absolutely
in a huge way.
Yeah.
Like there was absolutely no truth to that. So speaking truth to power, as she likes to say, she's full of shit. Two, like trying to desensitize people to such a powerful event. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter what your race, creed, religion is on. 9/11 was a substantial event in not just American history, in global history, because it was a small group of ununiformed, uncoordinated, sorry, not, what's the word I'm looking for? Independently operating cell that took on a large entity, meaning like the Western philosophy, and were successful in their attack. So it's a huge global event. You know, to try and like bring that down, or to, you know, scale it down, or to be dismissive or trivialize it, can only speak to a person's like support of it, understanding of it, and sympathy to it. And I'm not talking about the victims. Now, the clapback that AOC said is like, well, this whole thing started because, you know, she co-sponsored the bill to help with concessions, or helping with the healthcare and support of 9/11 victims. Also factually inaccurate. That bill was brought forward in 2001, I think signed by President Bush in 2002. So while she might have not even been in elementary school yet, that bill was like being run through, and it was just a renewal. So she didn't co-author that bill. She didn't have anything to do with that bill, except like maybe like seconding the motion to like send it to a vote for renewal. So like the whole thing of trying to bring down or devalidate that is just, it's very predictable, and it just shows where her personal heart is. But I guarantee that the majority of her constituents disagree with her.
I would hope so, for sure.
And, you know, like that just also shows, like, you know, even the drunk girl that talks too much at a party can get elected.
That's true. Good point. Yeah. So just a quick update. End of the second, and the Leafs for some reason somehow are leading the freaking Bruins 3-1. But a little hockey insert there. I don't have the score in the Caps game right now. But anyways, so another thing before we get to our main topic, which we've been going quite, I knew we had a lot to cover, is we wanted to just make sure we took time and recognize and highlight to our listeners and viewers the threats and the what is going on in Afghanistan and everywhere we have soldiers deployed, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. They're always at risk, whether they're on a ship in the middle of the Pacific and they run into another ship, or, you know, they're a training accident and they fall, you know, something happens in the States or wherever. But, you know, 3 young Marines, reservists, I believe, to be exact, from the New York City area, killed the other day, I think Tuesday, roughly our time, at the front, at one of the gates of Bagram Air Base, which is the largest base in Afghanistan. Been there more times than I can count as a soldier and as a civilian, and you know, killed by a suicide bomber that came up and detonated. You know, a post I wrote about it before and after up on boohammer.com. You can see the picture up on Boohammer of what was left of the vehicle that the suicide bomber was in. But these 3 young men, brave warriors, one of them a New York City firefighter. I think the other one is 2. I think 2 of them are. But one of them is a New York City firefighter that belonged to 2 different houses, was on one engine crew and worked on another. All of his fellow firemen are mourning, as is a lot of folks, but for all 3 of them. But one of them was from New York, PA. The other 2 were from New York. And, you know, we just want to keep them in our hearts and prayers. And after the recent loss of our dear friend Carrie, which we talked about last week, who devoted her time, her whole life, not only to, you know, soldiers in general, but especially Marines, you know, I'm hoping, and I say this with all sincerity, that she was up there with open arms to welcome them in, as these 3 young guys, you know, made the ultimate sacrifice, because they're still out there doing it. Whether the Geraldos of the world are there telling you about it, or any other media outlet is telling you about it, they are still out there towing the line and on the wire and risking it all, as per the orders of their country and their commanders. So,
yeah, no, like that one kind of hit close to home, not just geographically for you, but for us as a team. The reserve unit that's going to that is in the process of going through the relief in place transition of authority, RIPTOA, as it's commonly known in the military world, has a member of it that is intimately familiar with our show. And so it's really sad knowing that guy is so close to their return. Well, it doesn't matter what day it happens, if it's the first day or the last day, it sucks either way. But that one hit especially close to home, knowing that, like, it's still hot. We still have people we care about over there. Shout out to my old battle buddy, Bobby Freeman. He's over there right now, and to him and his men, we hope everything goes well and stays the course that we can get everyone home here shortly. I think everyone agrees that we want everyone home.
Yeah, and that's going to work for a nice for a transition. I guess nice, probably not the right term, but a smooth transition here to our next topic and the main topic for tonight. So yes, our young men and women are at risk all the time, everywhere around the world. But just when they come back doesn't mean they're any less at risk. And this week I was watching our friend Pete Hegseth on a show talking, and they were talking about the government-run healthcare and this and that, whatever. And he made it, and I was working and doing stuff, Toby, and he made a statement that just like caused me to swing my head over. But they were talking about government-run healthcare, because Bernie and some of the Democrats are making this big pitch as they try to gain favor in the Democratic Party and with the socialists. And he was like, we can't even run the VA is the second largest department in the entire U.S. government. And we can't even run healthcare right for veterans. What makes you think we can run it for the entire country, right? Of all ages and all genres and types, and that unfortunately is highlighted so well this week, because this week you probably didn't hear about it. I was talking to our good friend Doug earlier, who just came on. I see him in the chat. We were talking earlier. Toby, like most Americans, he knew nothing about that. This week we've had 3 veterans kill themselves at VA hospitals across this country, right?
Well, so let's talk about that real fast. We had 2 in Georgia,
at 2 different hospitals. At 2 different hospitals.
Yeah, 2 different hospitals in Georgia, and then right here in Austin, Texas. So you and I think we're in the middle of doing something when what happened in Austin happened. I was getting messages from people inside the VA telling me what they had just witnessed, and what they had witnessed was a man coming in, definitely like concerned, irritated, frustrated, like many that are in there, and then the result being him taking his life in front of a multitude of witnesses in a very violent manner.
In the middle of the waiting room. The quote I saw was hundreds of people witnessed it. I don't know if it's
you might want to get that.
No, I don't.
It's not your mom though. Like, no, she's right in the chat room. Yeah. No, and the reason, and I texted you, like, you and I were like, I think we were doing something at the time, and I was like, holy smokes, this is about to hit the news. This is, like trying to figure this out.
Right.
And it did not hit the news locally till 10 o'clock last night. Right. All right. So it was on the late edition, and so the couple of issues, 3 veterans going into veteran care facilities.
3 different ones. Even the 2 in Georgia were far away. They were 2 different, unrelated. They just hoped. And they
within a week.
They were one day after the other. They were just back to back. Yeah.
Take their own lives. And now I've been in places of darkness in my life. I've been in places of desperation. I've been in places of despair and hopelessness. And, so I'm not, it is not my place to judge them. As a Christian, I believe like that's God's gig, and I'm not going to pretend to be him. And I'm definitely not without sin, so I'm not going to throw any stones here. But like, what this is definitely reminding me of is a period of time in history where certain monks would go to train stations or large public squares or places of high volume of traffic, douse themselves in a flammable liquid and light themselves on fire to protest something.
Right.
Now, one involves resolve, one involves despair. But in the end, I think we're talking about a very similar issue. And I think there's a couple layers to it, and I'm probably going to offend some people, and, I'm prepared to do that. Like, just like mass shootings, just like some of these other things, as one person does it, the accolades or the attention that that person gets from doing it, it causes the next person to be inspired to do it at a different way or a more attention-getting way. Like, you don't want to be the same guy that did the same thing as 50 other people. You want to be the guy or the gal known for doing the one thing that no one else did, or doing it better, right? That's why the Guinness Book of World Records continues to grow. But one of the reasons that this is so troubling and perplexing, it isn't just the fact that, okay, I got it right here. The suicide report, we've referenced it several times on the show. Yeah. The suicide report from the VA, 2018 June. So here we are, almost a calendar year later from the release of this report, where on page 23, like I've said it, I don't know how many times, but I'll repeat. This is the VA's own research. Says main finding. This is on page 23 of the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs VA National Suicide Data Report. Main findings: suicide rates among veterans were higher than among non-veterans. Veterans who use Veteran Health Administrative Services had a higher rate of suicide death than non-Veteran Health Administration veterans, overall veterans, and non-veterans. So even the VA know that if you go to the VA, your chances of killing yourself just grew.
Yeah. But
this report came out.
Their own report.
Right, via their own report. I'm not twisting words. This is, you can Google this report. It's public. Here it is. Like, you can check it out, read it for yourself. Main finding: veterans are more likely to commit suicide than non-veterans. All right, issue number one. Issue number two is that if you go to seek help from within the veteran community, i.e. the VA, you're more likely to kill yourself. So we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, as a nation, like...
Let me give you one more stat, Toby. According to the Washington Post, between October 17 and November 18, so 13 months, 19 veterans died by suicide on the grounds of VA facilities. 19. Over a 13-month span. Some of those involved setting themselves on fire. There was one gentleman that did that in Georgia. A colonel in I think Florida, he had a note next to his body.
High profile.
Right.
High profile.
Full bird Marine colonel, went there in his full service uniform, dressed to the nines, and killed himself right on the grounds, right in front. And then they found the note next to his body that said, I quote, "I bet if you look at the 22 suicides a day, you'll see the VA screwed up in 90%." That was his final message. That's the legacy he wanted to leave. Yeah. Right? That's how important it was to him. That's how much impact that he was. When you think about it, a full colonel probably is going to be somewhere up in the neighborhood of 28 years or more service. Who knows what he saw, went through, and gave to this country, but that's how he wanted to make sure he was remembered because it meant that much. But
right. So... And this is like what's so frustrating is we say, and when I say we, I mean the general public of the United States, throughout the history of the United States in our 200 plus years, based on the promise that our founding president of the United States, George Washington, made, that we would take care of our veterans. We would do what we could, to do that. So like as part of the social contract that you enter into within being part of the community or the society of the United States, that's part of it, is you're going to help take care of those that took care of you to provide what you have. Just today, just today, I was talking to a soldier that I served with, a fine young man, fine infantryman that grew up within the striker community. As a veteran, he lost his leg, required amputation, and this is how like asinine the VA system is, and this is how these little things can lead to such greater things. The guy requires a prosthetic leg. The VA are the conduit for him to get the prosthetic leg. The VA arranged for him to get a prosthetic leg from a prosthetics company. The prosthetic company fit, measure, facilitate said leg, send leg to guy. Service member spends 2 years fighting to get into a program at Brooke Army Medical Center. There's a facility there, many are familiar with it, called the Center for the Intrepid. It's one of the most amazing global leading facilities in the, to make sure that, the recovery and the rehabilitation of amputees and with prosthetics is, second to none. Fights hard to get into that program so he can learn to properly walk, because like walking's kind of cool. And the VA, on the same day he gets accepted into the program to go to Brooke Army Medical Center's, San Antonio Medical Center's Center for the Intrepid, he finds out from the prosthetic company that they are repossessing his leg because the VA didn't pay the bill. Now,
I want that to sink into people, that they're coming to
just process that.
Yeah.
Like on the same day that this fine gentleman, I served with him in combat, and I will speak highly of his character, and I'll speak highly of his actions under fire. Distinguished young man, very proud to have known him, to know him. On the same day that he gets the news that he's finally going to be able to go to a program that'll help him learn to walk again, because he's not trying to be retired. He's trying to be a productive member of society. He's trying to be a good father, a good husband, a good communityman. He lives in the Oklahoma area. He's trying to continue to serve his community, trying to learn how to walk properly. Gets into this program that it fought, and I know this fight well because, like as he's been going through this process, there have been updates. He's getting his leg repossessed because the VA didn't pay the bill.
And that's the stories you don't, and that's just one, because you know it
right.
personally. How many out there how many other more, and maybe even more disgusting or terrible stories than that?
Yeah. No, like, I mean, I could go into like my own personal challenges,
right.
But like,
let me give you another number here, Toby's interesting one from the GAO office in December. They stated that the VA had a $6.2 million budget for suicide prevention media outreach, to commercials and this and that, and, social media, whatever. They spent $57,000 of $6.2 million. It was set aside. It wasn't coming from someone's budget. It was like, that's all this is for. And they only spent $57,000, right? There's not one during the span of 17 for FY 17 to 19, there was not one VA-produced suicide prevention message or advertisement aired on any national television or radio show, right? They're not even trying to reach out to it's not that they're not giving the treatment, and they're not making the appointments. They're not even trying to reach out to see what's going on. Dude, I was at a Disturbed concert a month ago with tickets given to me by VetTix, and the lead singer spent 15 minutes talking about suicide prevention and substance abuse, and putting up the National Suicide Hotline number across every screen in the entire theater, a packed theater of 20,000 people. And he did more about that, Disturbed, the rock band, did than the VA has. I mean,
well, he definitely touched more than $57,000 worth of people that night.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part is, there are a lot of organizations out there that are very focused on, suicide prevention. And I applaud most of their efforts. The the harsh reality is we need to do better. We need to do better. Um, but one thing that's not helping, and and that is hiding it. The fact that for 2 days a man took his life in a crowded, if he did it in a shopping mall in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure, and because a gun was involved, I'm sure it would have been global news, and another demonstration of the crazy Yankees, killing themselves with guns. Like, I have no doubt that it would have been politicized beyond belief if it happened elsewhere. The fact that this has been gagged and silenced, like, they don't even want this information getting out, because it's that embarrassing. It's almost like we're watching some kind of conspiracy theory movie. Like, they locked down the building, they didn't let anyone in or out, and they're like, there wasn't a single news camera involved in that. Like, they probably spent more money gagging this one event than they've spent on suicide prevention marketing, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, we're doing it wrong. Like, yeah, this is a huge black eye. We have some people with some real issues. Like, I don't like the choice that people make when they take their own life. I don't like it for a lot of reasons. Because you're not, taking any pain away from yourself. You're just making it exponentially worse on the people that actually care about you. Children of parents that have committed suicide are 70% more likely to take their own life as well. It creates a legacy of internal death. It's not good, not a great decision, especially when there's so many resources available to you, especially since there's so much love available to you. We have so much love available to our brothers and sisters that we can be doing this better. But is so frustrating. And when, people, and then there's the double-edged sword. And this is where I'm probably not going to make any friends. When people celebritize those that commit suicide, it gives people a green light to do it. And I hate that. I got in a heated debate with someone just recently, very recently, about, donating money to a memorial for veterans that had committed suicide. And I said it'd be a cold day in hell. Like, I'm not putting a penny towards memorializing and celebritizing and elevating someone that made that choice. I just don't think it's right. Personally, they made that choice, and I get it, but, like, I don't want an homage. I don't want to encourage.
Right.
I feel like it encourages others to do it.
Right. There's thousands before them that have thought that same thing, that maybe came very close, but something stopped them. Their faith, a friend, a momentary lapse of common sense and reality of who they were going to hurt, because it doesn't hurt them, right? It hurts. It doesn't. I can tell you there's suicide tied to my family, and it is and there's still true, long lasting, years and years later effects from that. So it is. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have walked that. There's a lot of people that have bad days, and bad things going on. But some of them stepped over that line, and it's terrible and it's sad, and there's but it's still a selfish act that hurts so many people. It is. Yeah, I would agree with you, man. That would be hard for someone to ask me to. That would be that would put me in a quandary. Like, wait, what? But I've never been asked. I didn't even know there was anyone making any kind of memorial.
Oh, there are several substantial veteran nonprofits engaged in this activity, and some of it's their primary focus, and some of it's a subsequent focus.
Use that money for education and rehabilitation and ways to reach out, not to memorialize them. Raise the money to put those commercials on air. Raise the money to hire an actor to speak about it, or whatever it takes, right? To man a booth, to talk to people.
No, like, one of the things that, and I got to tell you, the young man. He's been on our show before. His name's Kyle Hausman Stokes. Uh, Absolutely, undoubtedly, one of the most talented filmmakers of our generation. Uh, if you haven't gone and checked him out, or you're unfamiliar with Kyle, like you're missing out on one of the greatest talents we have out there. He did a piece when he was graduating from USC, which he was the top graduate of his USC film class, the directorial class. Um, he did a piece called Now After. Hey, Daniel, what's going on, my dude? Um, he did a beautiful piece, and in that piece, he demonstrated without dialogue. He demonstrated through the lens with an actor that was not a veteran what a veteran can go through and does, and then like had it ending with him seeking comfort with other veterans at a VA. And I've never been as proud of a piece that someone I knew did than the piece that Kyle did called Now After. And I encourage everyone to Google it right now. Go find it, Now, After, by Kyle Hausman Stokes. It's a beautiful piece. If you don't cry, you're not human. Even my dog cries when it watches it. Like I got stuffed animals in my room that my daughters left that like cry when that piece gets played. Like it's amazing. Like we have the knowledge, we have the answer, and that's what I think is so frustrating to me is like we're doing it wrong, and like let's be cliche, love's the answer, like let's find hope in in each other. Let's find hope in something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Let's seek out hope versus like let's play the long game. Let's not try and hold out.
Right.
And
we've been talking about this, dude, for so long. I remember, General Abrams, we've had Abe on a number of times. We've had him on the old show talking about this and ways to fight it. On the old show, we've had leaders from all within the military on, generals and other folks on talking about this. And this was before even the number 22 a day became a common in our vernacular. It was just like we had guys and gals committing suicide left, right, and center. And what does it take? And nobody can find the answer, and da-da-da. And, resiliency training and this and that. And the Army was trying to do all these mandatory classes and all that kind of stuff. And just like a mandatory fun day, right? You're not going to have fun when your chain of command tells you got to go to the lakefront and eat a hot dog and drink beer and hang out with the commander. That's not fun. You're not going to get help when they force you to sit down and talk to someone that you don't know, have nothing to relate to, or can't relate to your experiences. You're going to have fun when you're with your peers, when you're with your comrades, when you're with people you relate to and get along with and spend time with them. And you're going to get help when you sit down with those same kind of people and you talk to them. We've talked about it here, Toby, for years, and I've done it in private circles, and we've done it here on the show. The reason why I'm solely convinced of this, because there's facts and data that back it up, that we don't see this number of suicide and this trend as popular back in the days after World War I and World War II, is because those guys sat on a ship for months coming back across the pond, talking through everything they went through. So when they got back, they kind of came back, and for the most part, on percentage-wise, they came back and led normal, productive lives. Where our society, God forbid if you're a reservist or National Guardsman, but even in active duty, they get you back to the States as fast as they can. They throw you on leave, or if you're in reserve components, you're done, and they send you back to your civilian life fast as they can, thinking that somehow is a help for you and a benefit for you because you want to get home to mama or daddy or whatever. That's not the answer. We're back in a few hours on a flight, versus those guys back then sat on a ship. They talked about how Johnny got killed. They talked about how the old man got wounded and kept going to get guys. And they talked through how so-and-so saved their life, but he ended up dying. And they worked through a lot of that. So when they got to the beach, they got to the dock and they got to the pier and they hugged their wives and their families and they went home, they had released it. That is what we are missing. You can't have a social worker and a doctor and a BA that has no experience what you went through sit down and talk to you about what you went through because they have a degree that tells them that they know how to do this. You need someone that's been on your left and right, physically or essentially the same thing. Maybe they didn't even serve in the same country as you, but they saw the same horrors that you went through. They had the same fears when they went outside the wire as you did. They had the same concerns about what's going on back at home. They saw their same buddies die and bleed, or maybe people they didn't even know. Maybe civilians, which is the worst, little kids or whatever. That's who you need to talk to, and it'll help both sides. That's where we're missing it, and it's sad that after freaking 17 years, we can't figure this out.
Well, it's not 17 years, dude. Like,
18.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've known the answer for millennium.
Yeah.
One of the very first writings ever recorded was a poem lamenting about Greek warriors coming back from a battle. Like some of I probably said the people wrong on that. Yeah, it was Greek. Theoclidius. Anyway, we know the answer. We just keep doing it wrong. Like the boat thing was wonderful, and like back then, there were some really cool things about it. One of the things is like let the guys ride out on the boat, talk to each other, let them have a couple of beers, let them kind of get back to like some sense of normality or some kind of cultural normality.
Let them laugh through it, cry through it, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like let them throw some hands. Like what good reunion is a good reunion without some hands like bouncing on his head? Like work through it. Like there's no greater like counseling department than the Woodline. If you need to get it off your chest, get it off your chest. Like I love the fact that we could go to the sawdust pit and solve problems, because then it was gone. That's what I think so many people don't understand about hockey. Like people are like, oh, hockey's so barbaric. Like, yeah, how many hockey players are in the news for doing dumb shit at the club? How many hockey players are like on video like punching their fiance through an elevator door, like
or guns in or killing their homies and carrying guns into nightclubs and everything else.
Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You don't have that because when someone does something stupid in hockey, they police it. Like it gets cleaned up in the locker room. You do something stupid with your team, like it's not a moment for you to go wear some socks and have a press conference. Get your hiney whipped up. But we rush people back. The reintegration process is not good. The separation process from the military as a whole into the civilian world is not perfect. And we don't afford that opportunity. The other side of the sword is, you fly a guy back, it takes him 22 hours, tell him he can't drink for 72 hours, and then you tease him with his wife. Yeah, that dude's going to go ballistic. Like how many good stories do you have about guys coming back and doing dumb things, first or second night back? Like I remember being at Fort Stewart, TDY, helping some guys come back and, seeing a married soldier whose wife wasn't there to greet him, like go off and like, get tied up by a couple of hookers that he thought he's getting a great American welcome from, and they robbed everything from him to include his clothes. And he got arrested while he was walking down the street in a hotel bed sheet. And then the cop put a rain jacket on and repossessed it at the gate. But we're doing it wrong. We continue to get it wrong. But, we have to, there are things that are working. Chad Robichaux's program that Mighty Oaks Warrior.
Great example. Great example. Exactly what I was talking about.
Thousands of guys and I said that number right, thousands of guys have gone through that program without taking their life, found hope, and have like reintegrated. That's a faith-based program. They demonstrate, like, the hope that's provided by Jesus, and, like, give a biblical blueprint of mankind, and boom, guys aren't killing themselves. Veteran Outdoors just rolled 3,000 served. Only have one on the books, that took his own life. And I would dispute that one. I would say that there was more to it than, just the military service. Um, there are programs out there that are working. There are things out there, that Chad Robichaux was on this very show talking about how the president of the United States, the current one, Donald J. Trump, reached out to him specifically to say, like, speak into these programs. What you're doing seems to be working. How do we break through this, bureaucracy to get where you're at? We just need to do it.
Yeah.
Like, there are great organizations out there. There's great guys out there. There's T-shirt companies out there doing it better.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like Enlisted 9, Grunt Style, 9 Line, Ranger Up. Like, they're T-shirt companies. They're coffee companies
that
are doing a better job
right.
and putting more money into encouraging the veteran community to not kill themselves and to get out there and, like, solve their problems than the second largest institution in the greatest nation in the country. Like, Irreverent Warriors. Like, we're doing it wrong as a society. We need to, like, as a government. I mean, as an institution, we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But I got friends that work at the VA, guys, like, that have been guests on the show, that, we love, that we absolutely love. And we know that their heart's in the right place and they're doing everything they can. And every day they go is a battle. And I can't imagine what it was like to be in that waiting, not as a client of the VA, but as a employee of the VA, and know that my workplace is a reality of someone coming in and doing that to themselves in front of my kiosk or my, desk, or, I can't imagine what they're going through. And, like,
I'm getting some more news out of the one that happened in Austin. The reports are that he got discharged out of the facility up in Temple and got sent down to Austin. So he got discharged from there and sent to Austin. He went in there and then killed himself right in front of the giant American flag that's in the waiting room. He stood right in front of that and did it. Making that statement. But got sent from one to another. Probably he was at one that he knew some people. They worked with them, all that stuff. He gets sent to granted they're not super far away, but if you're in Temple, you're not in Austin. You don't know anyone down there. You don't know those doctors. You don't know any of those folks. Probably walked in there and he was just another number that pulled a piece of paper, right, waiting for his number to come up.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, we talked about, I want to say his name, but I hope that doesn't affect the situation. That's why I'm not going to say his name. But when you have somebody that is getting their leg repossessed over something bureaucratic, like, that's such a quality of life issue. Like, you are trying to learn or do something that's going to affect how you conduct the rest of your life. That's going to affect walking your child down the aisle or standing next to your child while they, pledge their life to somebody else, while you're trying to get to your seat, however it may be, to watch your child graduate, whatever it might be.
Right.
Like, and you're getting this item that you've in essence earned, and were pledged and promised, repossessed. And, like, this clearly has to be some kind of bureaucratic snafu, right? but think of what that could do. In this situation, this guy's got a beautiful heart, and he's a bright mind, and he's smarter, and like is able to process this as an adult. But man, like imagine somebody else that
Yeah.
doesn't have the intestinal fortitude and internal strength that this young man, this hero has.
That could have had
That's
that could have
been
had a
broken and weakened, and this could be the final step. Just like you
right.
said, like I can't deal with you at this facility. You need to go to this other facility 60, 70 miles away to go talk to a complete stranger. Where bearing your soul to a complete stranger is so enjoyable anyway.
Right.
Let
But
me
you,
make
you
you
don't
do
even
that
know
again.
what's going on in their life, right? The day they
Yeah.
come to repossess it, maybe that was the day he had to put his dog down. Maybe somebody left him. Maybe a family member died. Maybe it's an anniversary of somebody they lost close to him on that same day. All these other things that impact our lives that are on the,
Or maybe it's just a day.
or maybe just a day where you feel like nothing's going right. You freaking woke up and you freaking missed your alarm and you did this and it's like, shit, it's going to be one of those days. Everything's going wrong. The damn hot water's out. Couldn't get a hot shower. Who knows? And then that happens. That may be all it takes to tip you over the edge, right? It's just like we say, Toby, you're this way. I know we see it all the time. We see someone having a stressed out moment. I know we do this in our family. We see someone that's having a bad moment that doesn't look like they're acting themselves, and you just kind of go, what else is going on in life? I'm going to pray for them. I don't know what else is happening in life, but they're having something's going on, right? You're not being judgmental. You're not digging.
No,
You're not sticking your nose into it. You're just like, this person's really like freaking out and yelling, or they're stressing out over something really small. I'm going to pray for them because there's obviously other things going on, right? And this is just the icing on the cake. Where by itself would not be a major deal. But, getting your leg repossessed on the day you finally get into that program would be a pretty major deal, for sure. It would almost be like
no,
getting
like
your wheelchair
we're
repossessed, like, hey, we're taking the wheelchair back.
well, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
I mean, it's a utensil of mobility. And I don't think we're done talking about this subject. I think we're gonna come back to this case specifically because I think as there's gonna be more to it. I just don't want to speak out of turn and make the situation worse for a young man that doesn't need to have it worsened. But no, like it's these things we're doing it wrong. But what we do need to do is like what you said. We need to police our immediate circles. We need to, take the time when we have it. One of my favorite human beings on the planet right now, Joanne, is in the chat rooms right now saying when she worked for the VA, and this woman gave her heart and soul to the VA, and she's kicking cancer in the ass right now too. So shout out to my girl Joanne right there. Um, we shouldn't be finding ways to put this problem into a system. We need to be finding ways to solve the problem. And if, what you're doing isn't working, do something different. And if what you're doing is working, let's not stop those from doing it.
Right.
But that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. The look, it's I put the number up there for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's reach out. There, someone just take time. I'm going to ask our listeners and viewers for two things here before we close. We've been going for about an hour and a half, and that is, if you pray, and I hope you do, to whatever, or if you don't, just take some time and think, and just hope and whatever, that no one else sees these three that have happened in a week and think that's the way they need to go, that they want to add themselves to that roster, that they'll see that if they do hear and see about this, maybe that'll give them a lapse of common sense and reach out and call something like the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, or call a buddy, or call whatever, or call a family member. But also, that if there's someone you're thinking of, I hope this kind of triggers you. I know every time I see this happen, Toby, and I talk about it, there's, in our careers, in our lives, so many soldiers we've touched, and maybe non-soldiers, maybe civilians that we know that could be at risk of this. I always try to think, when's the last time I talked to them? I need to reach out to them. I mean, it's been too long. We get busy with life. So I ask that if you know someone that you think is kind of down, is having a bad time, you've been worried about in the past, if it's nothing more than a text, no idea if someone's at their wit's end, just a quick text saying, hey, thinking about you, how's it going? How's life been treating you? We've been too long, let's talk. Just something like that. And you could save a life and not ever realize it. And maybe God will show it to you one day when you stand in front of him. But it could be something as small as that. And in a better case, you can go by and see someone or give them a phone call. because you don't know what they're going through right then. So I'm hoping out of this sadness and out of this evil wickedness of these happening so much that by talking about it tonight, it triggers you to think about someone that could maybe worth reaching out to.
So, there you have it.
Well,
we'll see everyone next week.
Yeah.
At least you'll see at least something of us.
Yeah.
The following week, though, we will not be on the air because we will be
spring break.
For you, and I will be. I'm spring break this upcoming week.
Oh, okay.
And then, but the following week I'll be out of the country, and you'll be on spring break. So, there you have it.
So yeah, the 20. I think it's the 26th is what it is. If I'm saying it right, or whatever. 2 Thursdays from now, we won't be on the air, but we'll be bouncing right back after that. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. I know it was a little bit long time, hour and a half. We had a lot of topics going to cover, and obviously the last one we've been covering for the last 40 minutes was really the one we wanted to get on and dig into. And we can't thank you enough for allowing us into your homes and your ears and on your screens and tuning in for us every week. We're really, I know I can speak for Toby and I both. It means the world to us for you to be here and for you to share this show. And we love watching our numbers go up afterwards and watch people that come back and watch a show that couldn't make it tonight. That really is what it's all about. So, all right, especially when we have topics like this, which hopefully can do some good. But, Toby, anything else before we wrap?
No, man. Thanks, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Everybody, you have a good night, and God bless. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Stu and the Nunn Radio. We hope you enjoyed your time with us because we have enjoyed sharing our time with you. Be sure to check out stewandthenunn.com in addition to asking us questions and interacting with us on our Facebook page and Twitter. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Spreaker and Facebook Live. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Warrior Media Solutions, PoohHammer.com, Veteran Outdoors, Graybeard Publishing, and Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Thank you again, and have a good night.